I've thought this multiple times. I do not think that there is anything intrinsically morally wrong from a Christian perspective with saying cuss words. I don't think there are a specific set of sounds that are just intrinsically sinful. I think it boils down to three different factors. And I think if you read the Bible, you read what Jesus says on this, you read what Paul says on this, you're going to find it consistent with what I'm about to say. There are three factors that determine the morality of your speech. Factor number one is, what is your subjective intent in saying that? That actually does matter. Factor number two, what is the rationally anticipated reaction you will get from your audience? Not how do they react, but how can you rationally anticipate them?
How would you expect them to react?
Yes. And then the third is the overall context of the situation. And so I think that's really what defines the morality of language, and I don't think it's about specific sets of syllables.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I get into an argument with a guy because he stole my parking space or something, and I'm just yelling at him, and I call him an SOB, that's wrong. I'm intending to insult him. He's going to get insulted. The context is a stupid fight that we shouldn't be having, conflict so that's wrong. That's wrong. If, however, I'm playing Halo with my friend Tyler, and he keeps killing me over and over and over and over and over again because he's better than me, and I gab him and call him an SOB, there's nothing wrong. In fact, it actually, in that moment, is building camaraderie. Because he knows I'm not meaning to insult him. He knows that we're just kind of trash talking each other because that's kind of how men operate. Men trash talk. It's banter, yes. And so that's not immoral at all.
So I have some questions. This is very
okay.
Because I kind of agree with you, but I think I diverge a little bit. So first question, is it okay for a child to cuss?
It depends on what you mean by okay. So
okay, let me say it this way. If you are talking to a 3-year-old and they go, yeah, I was playing with my toys and they were like effing this, that, whatever.
Here's what I'll say about that. So it is not about the specific set of syllables.
Yeah.
However,
we can both agree the sounds are not what make it bad.
Right. However, every language has certain words that it loads up with more emotion than other words because sometimes you need, and meaning, because sometimes you need that extra emotion and meaning to convey specific
I don't think
points.
you need it, and that's one of my big things.
Sometimes it is, perhaps we should say, more efficient. It's much more efficient to convey certain things with words that are packed more densely with emotion and meaning.
I could spend a lot of time unpacking that, but I want to let you go.
Okay. So because of that, I think there's a general societal understanding that kids are not responsible enough with their language to wield that extra amount of linguistic power. And so, I don't think if that kid were to say that, I don't think he has sinned in the sense that he needs to go repent to God. But at the same time, I don't think that is a habit that is conducive to his growth as a person.
So would you
because he's not
to a kid playing with a lighter? Like a 3-year-old kid playing with a lighter?
Yeah, I can see that. It's like you shouldn't do that. But you're not going to hell.
Probably not. You're probably not going to hell.
But yeah, you shouldn't do it. It's bad.
Yeah.
Or playing with dad's power tools. Okay, you didn't drill your hand. That's good.
Yeah.
But there's a chance you will. There's a chance you'll wield this inappropriately. So let's not let you do that until you've got the maturity.
I can totally understand that. I have not heard that particular argument before. Most people think it's just bad for kids to say cuss words, and I think that's kind of ironic. It's like, what's different about the kid?
Well, I think they're morally intuiting what I'm describing. I've just spent an inordinate amount of time thinking about this. For some reason, that is unclear. I don't know why.
I think it's good to think about things.
So that's my take. I don't. That's why I don't get when I watch TV with a whole lot of language. It doesn't bother me even slightly. In fact, I think that there are some stories you can't tell without all. So, for example,
you have an example? Yeah, I was about to say.
Yes.
I don't.
Goodfellas cannot be told.
Which one's that?
That's the mob story with Ray Liotta.
See, that makes sense.
Goodfellas cannot be told honestly without a lot of language because that's how those people talk.
Yeah, but it's
You
also
cannot convey that. Yeah, well, no, even if it's The Godfather, for example.
real-ish. It's like it's reality adjacent, which means
Well, you're telling the truth about people.
Yeah.
You have to adequately represent people in writing, and a lot of people cuss, and so you can't convey them properly. Same with like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
You can't have Saving Private Ryan without it.
Cussing.
Yeah.
And to remove that removes part of the identity.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch Saving Private Ryan and Tom Hanks is going, darn it, that just doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It would be like everyone would be like, "Oh, I'm watching a movie."
That's why it's so shocking to people when they see Kirk Cousins mic'd up. So, for those of you who are not football fans, Kirk Cousins is an NFL quarterback, was with the Vikings for a while. He's now with the Atlanta Falcons. He's your quarterback.
Man,
He is
not my team.
he is a fair enough. He is a very devoted Christian, and he tries to live his life in a way that communicates that. So he does not cuss. Now, I have my disagreements with him, as I just articulated. I don't really think that's necessary, but that's what he feels personal about. I respect that. So he just does not cuss. So when you watch him mic'd up, because the NFL does the thing where they'll put mics on people while they're playing the game, and then they'll publish that later. It's hilarious because every other mic'd up situation, they're just constantly bleeping out all the cuss words because these are very intense, violent men.
Oh yeah.
Who cuss like soldiers because they kind of act like soldiers because they are kind of soldiers.
Yeah.
And then you get Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins gets sacked. And on third down, he has to go to the bench because they're punting it. And he throws his helmet down and says, "Dang it!" And it just looks so incongruent. It's hilarious. It's so funny.
That takes will.
It does. I respect the will. Now, unfortunately, I think he's probably a little bit woke. So that's the unfortunate part of him. I only think that. I don't know that for sure, but he was up in the north for a long time. So
I got you.
it happens. But I think he's overall good. And if you watch the quarterback documentary by Peyton Manning, the first season that he did, it follows Kirk Cousins. I gained so much more respect for Kirk Cousins after watching that I started rooting for the Vikings.
That's cool.
And now that he's with the Falcons, I'm kind of rooting for the Falcons because I just like Kirk Cousins a lot. He's just a good dude.
Yeah.
Good dude.
That's interesting, especially these days.
He also bilked Atlanta out of like all of their money. And he has the best contract negotiator on planet Earth. He's getting so overpaid, but it's anyway. So
I think you're closer. So on one hand, we've got you saying like it's fine to cuss as long as you meet certain requirements, and then we've got most, we'll say, typical mainstream Christians at least
who don't even think about the issue and they just say it's bad.
They're just like cussing is bad because it's bad.
Yeah,
but I'm kind of in the middle. I think, like you said, I think some stories cannot be told without cussing, but then that also gets into the whole realm of what I think is very interesting of like how far is it okay to go in theater. Which
a good question. I've actually got a very specific opinion on that, which is that really the only line that shouldn't be crossed is the sex line, and that's because sex is fundamentally different than all the other sins that you see on TV.
I agree with that.
Let's get to that in a second.
That might be a good second topic.
We'll go ahead and just open this up. This is probably what's going to be